Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Deborah, student, singer, songwriter, and everything else in between. Hi. So, if you guys are not aware of this author called G.M Fairy, let me remind you, she is the same girly that made the Shrek fanfiction Get in My Swamp. Sean McComb, he did a video on it and then I watched it and I gobbled that shit up because why not? And I thought, right, like that has to be the end of everything. Like she made a part 1 and a part 2. I thought, right, it's over. It's over. And then recently I came across this YouTube short.
We all had a crush on this bee growing up, but I wanted a version of this movie that gave us what we actually wanted. I wanted a bee and human romance. So I took it in my own hands and wrote a loose, steamy retelling.
Yeah, so I got it. You are not prepared for the madness that is this book. But before we get into it, let me just mention that I'm going to switch outfits in this video because I read this over 2 days. So let's go into day 1 of reading it and then we'll come back to day 2 because I have notes, I have tabs, I have highlights. Without further ado, let's get into it. And that's on that period. Okay, guys, so it is officially day 1 of reading this book. And I thought I was only just going to read like 50 pages per day or something to, you know, ease myself into it for my mental health. I am currently on page 174 because I started reading it last night and I could not put it down because it is a train wreck that I actively need to constantly read. We start off with the character called Barracks, which, I mean, if you guys have seen the Bee movie, you know that the bee's name is originally Barry. So I think Miss G.M Fairy is just actively trying to avoid a lawsuit, and I don't blame her. This is interesting material, to say the least. Originally, I thought Barracks was supposed to be a bee, but apparently Barracks is a creature from this distant planet that is not on Earth, right? Remember that. So Barracks is part of the species that have human-like bodies. Their skin is black and white like that of a bumblebee. It is furry, but at the same time, even though they have apparently muscles and like a human muscular form, they also have antenna, like 2 antennas, wings, and a stinger that also retracts. I don't know, you better stop! Instead of the stinger being at the back like it does on an actual bee, it's at the front. So it's just a penis. Mom, Dad, if you're watching this video, please actively click off of this one. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is not for the everyday person that I know. I'm so sorry. But yeah, the stinger is his male. Funny thing is that Barracks keeps on saying that he's not a bee, but like, what are you? I'm so confused. But anyways, so Barracks is part of this species that are apparently so intelligent. They keep on saying they're not bees in the human sense, but at the same time, they also kind of live in a hive and they have a queen bee, which all of the male bees pollinate. Isn't that kind of similar to how bees live? No? Okay. Barracks is now this bee who has been chosen to be what you would call a pollen jockey. And a pollen jockey is tasked with the mission to fertilize a female. Now, originally, you might think, Deborah, you mean a female on their planet? You just said they had a queen bee. I know what I said. I know exactly what I said. Yeah, no. So it turns out this whole entire time in Barracks' world, the commanders, the people have gotten together and they decided that it would be a mutually beneficial relationship if they have their people come to planet Earth, which they don't call it planet Earth, they call it the blue planet. If they come to planet Earth and then fertilize a human woman, take her embryo, and then go raise it on their planet. Because that's a mutually beneficial relationship. Okay. And so what's funny is that at this time, at the beginning of this book, because these people have never really come to Earth or Blue Planet or whatever the fuck they call it. I don't even know at this point. They think that like Earth is this underdeveloped place with huts and like we're Neanderthals, you know, like we don't have buildings and skyscrapers. So they think like, right, like we're gonna help develop these species because they're not really developed like that, like us. How fucking arrogant, but I digress. So they're all like, yeah, like they're not developed as us. So it'll be mutually beneficial to us if we impregnate their females. They have our babies. We have our superior gene because their genes are the closest to ours because remember, they're pseudo-humans. And we like bring them back to our planet. We raise them and we help, I don't know, their environment, I guess, and teach them civilization. And so Barracks has been chosen. He's the chosen one to go fertilize a female. And so they've apparently been studying females and their reproductive systems. I mean, he even says it here, the older generation is the one to suffer since there's not enough younger population to sustain our industry and production. We need more offspring and a new planet with more resources. The blue planet and its population are the perfect solution. How about we just leave human beings alone? Let's start there. I just want to reiterate how they plan to do this, how they plan to fertilize a female, because it needs to be said. It needs to be said. I'll start by infiltrating the planet's atmosphere in my compact form, so as to not cause suspicion. Next, I will locate a female. I stop. I've repeated these steps all of my life. I've been bred for position, but something about saying them out loud, now that the task is finally here, makes my brain stutter. I shake my head slightly. Yes, I will capture her after locating the perfect female specimen based on blood type, age, and genetic traits. I will wait until her eggs are ready for fertilization and pollinate her, making sure to keep the environment and position in perfect condition for fertilization. Then the final step, just as a topper. After 3 weeks, I will infiltrate the female's uterus, harvest the fertilized embryo, and signal to the hive that I'm ready to be extracted. We've already adopted the planet dweller sense of time. They measure time on the cycle of their singular moon. It's a primitive practice, but it will make understanding the female ovulation cycle easier if we operate on their time measurement.
Electric chair.
My voice is currently dying, but when I finish this, I will let you guys know more. But that's where we are for now. So we're back on day 2. I forgot to explain our other main character, our girly, Janessa, instead of Vanessa from the movie. You get it? You get it? Got it? Good. Janessa is our girly who lives in New York, and she is a flower shop owner, just like the movie. You know, we're sticking to the canon. We're sticking to the original material on that one, period. And so she is also dating our other main character, well, side character in this book, Kent. Right. I remember him being so annoying, but now as an adult, when I look back on it, I kind of understand his annoyance when it came to the fact that Vanessa in the film was really obsessed with the bee over their relationship, but at the same time, I just felt like he wasn't the right person to be in a relationship with, so let's start there. But in this book, Kent is a whole different beast. Kent is a piece of garbage. He's a bum. At least in the movie, I think he used to play tennis. I think he was a rich guy. In this book, he's a bum. And literally when he comes into like the flower shop, he comes to tell her about this new pyramid scheme that his friend signed him up for because Kent cannot find a job. Kent is broke. Kent cannot do anything to save his life. And literally the funniest part in this book is that every time Kent shows up, the author uses a sentence and she says that her heart always drops when she sees Kent. And it's like, I don't know about you, but if you're in a relationship, your heart should not be dropping when you see the sight of your boyfriend. But I digress. So Kent shows up, this new pyramid scheme that he's joining, which is to sell knives, except he doesn't know it's a pyramid scheme because his friend convinced him that if he buys a knife, then all he has to do is just sell it and it becomes passive income by having people under, so a pyramid scheme nonetheless. And the minute she tries to give him any sort of criticism, he gets really manipulative and emotionally abusive towards her. And then he's like, you never want to support me, Vanessa. You never care about me. I just want, why can't you just be happy for me for once? So he's practically a man-child. And so Vanessa has to kind of just like be like, okay, I support you, I guess. But what's funny to me is that Vanessa, the whole entire time, the only reason why she's with Kent is because she's afraid to be alone. She actually says that in the book. But another thing that's really like a glaring red flag in their relationship is that she covers everything because he's broke. He practically wants to live in her apartment 24/7, even though he has an apartment of its own, but it's so bad that he just leeches on to her, not that she has that much money anyways, and she's always paying for everything. Every time they go out, she actually offers to go out because she knows that if he asks if they want to go out, when they get to the restaurant, he's just going to pretend that he forgot his wallet again because he constantly does that. So she just offers lunch and she knows she's going to pay for it, and he's never done anything for her since. Disturbing. While Kent is telling her about this pyramid scheme, Barracks is literally being shot out of his planet in like this weird mini spaceship thing. Their species apparently have a thing where they can metamorphosis? They can morph into bees. And so he like goes into his compact form. That's what he calls it, his compact form. And so he gets into his compact form on his little spaceship, and then he gets shot right out of his planet onto Earth. Great. Okay. So he lands on water in his little spaceship. Cute. You know what I'm saying? And he's like searching for females as his little compact form. Now, you might ask Deborah, his compact form, isn't that really just a bee? No. He specifically points out that they have other creatures that look like him in his compact form, which are bees, but he's not a bee. I don't know why the author didn't just stick to the bee thing. Again, maybe she's just trying to avoid a lawsuit, but like that doesn't really make any sense. You have a hive and a queen bee. Yeah, okay. Anyways, while Vanessa's, I don't know, just trying to get dinner, whatever, or brunch with her boyfriend, he lands into the shop and he is sort of really attracted to the scent. So he's like buzzing around, searching, flying around Piriana. And so he gets to where Kent and her are having lunch. And so he's like, this female, I am somewhat attracted to her in his bee compact form. And so he sees her and he's like, this female's interesting. And then he says that there's something wrong with her because, I don't know, I think their antenna can sense whenever a woman is fertile or fertile. I don't even know. And so he says that when he notices her, that he notices something is wrong about her fertility. And so that makes her a non-perfect target. I'm scared. Let me read it out to you. My sensors don't indicate a specific reason why. There seems to be something wrong with her reproductive system. It must be an issue our researchers don't have a name for. I can't understand why I'm so drawn to her. I don't notice myself inching closer and closer until I'm resting on the table next to her meal, staring up at her round brown eyes. We'll find out what's wrong with her a little bit later, but that's not the point of the story. So he's at the table where they're having lunch, and instantly our boy Kent, as per the movie, swipes him with a fucking newspaper and nearly kills him.
Stop!
And Vanessa's like, no, don't kill the bee. And so the thing is like Vanessa in this time, like she really has that characteristic of, okay, I have a flower shop. We need bees to stay alive. So don't kill the only bee that I possibly see right now. So she tries to save the bee. Kent gets really upset about the fact that she's trying to save a bee. She takes it home with her and Kent follows her home. And then she says that like his life is just as equal to that of a bee. And then Kent gets really upset by this because he's a man baby. He's a man child. And he's not the same as movie Ken. Okay, even though movie Ken was also a bit of a man-child, but I digress.
I've got issues!
She puts the little bee, the little barracks inside of a cup. But you see, when she does that, that's when things hit a little bit differently. Because she says, and I quote, I bring the cup up to my line of vision just to make sure. Sure enough, the little bug seems to be coming too, now back on its feet. A surge of pride runs through me, but that's not the only thing I feel. Some odd feeling, almost like arousal, vibrates through my body. Maybe it's because I finally feel like I'm doing something good. Could saving a bee's life make me horny? No. And from here on out, ladies and gentlemen, the book gets more and more deranged by the literal page. I am not kidding. I wish this was a joke. I wish this was a drill. Obviously, she doesn't tell her boyfriend that she's being aroused by a bee, and she just tells him to not sleep at her apartment this night and that he should go somewhere else. And so Kent gets really upset with that, and he's like, are you breaking up with me, Vanessa? And then she's like, no, I just want personal space. And then he's like, so you're not breaking up with me, right? Because Christ, Janessa, I don't think I can take that right now. I love you. Okay. But yeah, in the back of her mind, she's just thinking to herself, I'm not breaking up with you. Not yet. Which honestly, honey, break up with this man. I mean, you both have issues, but at least, I don't know, break up with him. POVs again, back to barracks each chapter. Like we switch POVs between her and him. And so what's interesting is that we go back to barracks' POV. And so he's this little like bee stuck in this little cup. Janessa gives him some water to drink because, you know, he needs to heal. And he's still very mesmerized by her. But one thing I didn't mention before is that barracks has a very interesting attitude when it comes to this whole mating thing, right? Because it's clear on their planet, they don't really have love, passion, and romantic understanding. They just kind of like mate and they just kind of go along with one another because they have to, because it's biological. So for him, he's having a lot of conflict on the inside as to why he feels so much attraction for this human being, right? And he also doesn't understand a lot of human customs because at the end of the day, he is technically an alien. So when he looks at her and he's attracted to her, he's very confused as to why this is happening, and he's never really felt anything like this before. So my guy's really like, he's really just like, oh my gosh, ooga ooga, you know? I cannot believe I did that, but you know what I mean. And also when it comes to the act of fertilizing, it's not meant to be a romantic thing. It's meant to be like a wham bam, let's move on, get the embryo. So he's like, oh, like if I'm this attracted to this female, then mating or fertilizing her must be so much more easier. So while she's like getting undressed, he also starts to feel not only attraction to her, but also arousal, I guess. And she's already been feeling this for the whole entire time, and she's sexually frustrated. So when he's in this like little like cup thing and he can see her get undressed and get ready for bed, he gets aroused by it. And that's when we learn how his stinger works. I hope YouTube doesn't demonetize me. But she doesn't know. She doesn't know that he can like transform and that he's not really a bee. So she's just feeling like something's watching her, but she doesn't really know what it is. So like when she gets undressed, she's like, I feel like there's something watching me. But like obviously there's just a bee in the house, you know? But he has been watching her the whole entire time. And then it gets 2 shades weirder. I don't want to continue. Things get a little bit weirder when she decides to, you know, pleasure herself. She decides to get herself off for the evening. And she doesn't know that, again, he can literally see everything. While she's pleasuring herself, he's pleasuring himself. And when he's done, we learn that what comes out of him is instead honey. And of course he has nowhere to like place this. So there's just like a pool of honey next to him. And Janessa doesn't know what's happening. Janessa, right before she goes to bed, she goes to check up on Barracks, the bee, but she doesn't know he's Barracks, the bee alien. She's just thinking, let me go take care of this bee. And then she sees that there's honey next to him. So she tastes it. And then he watches, and then he gets really excited about the fact that she tasted it and that she liked it because, of course, it's honey. This is so weird. And so he's like, oh my gosh, this girly pop is amazing. I would love to see her one more time before I go. But he knows that he has to go and find the quote unquote perfect female so that he can mate with her. Because don't forget, our man is on a mission. Our man is on a mission and he has to save the colony. He just wants to see her face one more time. And so because he's such a big human being, the floorboards creak and then she wakes up and then she sees him literally looking down on her. And she's looking up at him, and then she screams. And she realizes that there's a huge bee man in her house. And so he tells her, female, I mean you no harm. That's literally what he says in this book. And so at this point, they actively have a conversation with one another. You know, they introduce themselves. So he's like, I come from the colony, a planet many light years away. And she's like, so you're not a bee? And so he's like, no, I'm not a bee. However, I can shift into my smaller size that resembles what you call a bee. That was the form I was in when you rescued me and put me in your container. Okay, Janet. Now, I want you to realize this whole entire time, Vanessa thinks this is a dream. She thinks this is a dream. She thinks she's low-key having a psychotic break. And honestly, girly, I would not blame you if you thought that, because I would think the exact same thing. Yeah, if there was a random tall-ass 6'5" bee man with dark and yellow skin, I would be freaked out as well. He explains to her his reason for being on Earth. He says, in quote, our planet's population dwindles. I'm the first sent to your blue planet to pollinate, helping both of our planets. By the way, I also want to remind you that he is very sexually attracted to her. Like, it's underlying that his stinger is not retracted during this phase because it only retracts when there's no arousal, but it's very not retracted in these scenes. I want you to remember that, because if I'm suffering with this, you have to too. And Vanessa is also secretly aroused by him, and that is something that he can sense with his antenna. But at the end of it, she tells him not to go because he's like, oh, maybe I should leave. And she's like, nah, like sleep on my couch. Because the whole time she's just like, oh, this is a really good dream. Great. So he listens and he sleeps on the couch. The next day comes and she realizes it's not a dream. And so she's like, oh, there is really a bee person in my house. But they have a conversation and she's like, so you're not a bee? And he's like, yes, we literally had this conversation yesterday. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was a dream, my bad. Also, I forgot to mention that him getting hit by Kent destroyed part of his wing, which needed to heal. So at the same time, as much as he wants to fly away, which he really doesn't, he can't because his wing is broken. So he technically has to stay. So then she's like, I mean, your wing is healing. So, you know, why don't you just stay? They have this little moment where, you know, she gives him human food and he's never had human food before because what they eat is not human food. And so she's like, oh, like you can have a bagel. And he's like really happy. And he's like, oh, this food is a treasure. And she's like, boy, if you don't. One thing she does ask is, how can you even speak my language? And so Barry explains that they're a developed species. And so his antenna can like help him translate languages whenever it's necessary, which I mean is a handy thing to have. She leaves him at the apartment and she's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm gonna go to work. This was weird. Eat your bagel. Bye-bye. I want to tell you what this chapter ends with. I slammed the door in his face, feeling like a bitch immediately after. I just can't look at him any longer. God, I'm hoping work will clear my head, or I'm gonna end up banging a bee before the day is over.
I know a lot of things, but I don't know about that.
After she leaves to go to work, Barracks is left at home. Someone walks in, our not so favorite person, Kent. And Kent is with somebody else, because that's right, Kent is cheating on Janessa with another girlie in her own apartment.
Electric chair.
And so Barracks is like, hey, I don't know about this, but this is weird. And then you realize that on their planet, they have no idea what cheating kind of is. They start getting busy on Vanessa's bed. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to clean the sheets because she deserves better than that, than to sleep on something that her dirty ass boyfriend is doing with another girl. So Vanessa comes back from her job. And so he is trying to like wash the sheets, right? And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, your boyfriend or mate or person came over with another person. So I'm just cleaning it up. And so she gets pissed because in her chapter, the whole entire time, she was just thinking constantly that maybe it was a good idea to break up with Ken, which honestly, out of all the decisions made in this book, I completely wholeheartedly agree with. And so she gets pissed because obviously she's being cheated on by this bum and has been mistreating her like there's no tomorrow. So she like starts ranting about it and she's like, oh my God, I literally was trying to be such a good girlfriend by not trying to sleep with somebody else. Meanwhile, he's been cheating on me this whole entire time. I'm paraphrasing it in nicer words because like, honest to God, don't want to get demonetized. But she's like, this whole time I was trying not to sleep with you. And so Barracks is like, oh, me? You wanted to sleep with me? And so they go at it. Yay. Now, it's important to note they do not go all the way. But you know, I'm gonna save you all the gory details. She goes down on him. He goes down on her. It's a whole fiasco for like 3 pages. And so when they're done, she stops them from going all the way. And she thinks to herself, wait a second. This guy talked about fertilizing females on our planet. And he's not really a bee. So then she's like, hey, Barracks, what does pollination mean to you? And that is when we get a very interesting chapter. I would like to remind you all that this happened within the span of 2 days. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for day 4. I'm using my microphone because I'm so tired. I'm so tired. It's a new week. I don't know if you guys can see, but my lights are purple. So where we last left off was pollination. They have a discussion about what pollination means to him. He originally thinks like, right, like pollination is the same thing. Doing this to get you pregnant and then you have a baby. And then she's like, no, that's not how it works here on the human planet. So they have a very interesting discussion about this. And he's like, well, I mean, the original plan was to get you pregnant and then take your embryo. But I see you as my mate. Like, I'm in love with you now. And I want you to come back with me to my planet. And she's like, what the fuck? Also, she calls him B this time around. Like she's officially given him a nickname, so we don't have to call him Barracks the whole entire time. So when they have this discussion, she's like, actively, no, this is not a good idea. I'm not interested in having a baby right now, and you couldn't even get me pregnant if you tried. And that's where we learn that what Barracks thought was wrong with her with his antenna is that not that she's infertile, but she's on the pill, so she can't get pregnant. But that's what his antenna like picked up, and that's why he thought that there was something wrong with her. So he's like, oh, okay, that's why I thought I had to go find another woman to impregnate. But like, I mean, that explains a lot. And she's still weirded out by the whole situation, but he explains that like he's in love with her. He would never force her to do anything that she doesn't want to do. And if she doesn't want to do it, that's also okay. If she wants her to leave, that's also okay. And so she's like, you know what? Heal your wings and then get out of my house. Honest to God, yes, I agree with this decision. So he's like, right, like I won't disturb you anymore. Just until my wings are healed, I will be here. After that, some interesting things do happen. So in order not to cross boundaries and agree on the fact that they're not going to go all the way, she takes him out to the city into New York so that, you know, he can see the sights or whatever. He can have like an understanding of what human life is like, and they go get ice cream and she talks to him in his compact form. And there's a scene where like she gets ice cream and then he's in his compact form, so he just like shoves himself in the ice cream cone, which is kind of funny. And after this, they come back to the apartment. This whole time, Janessa has been like, I'm just trying to get this man out of my house into different places so that I don't feel more sexually frustrated as it is. So when they come back and it's the evening, she wants to go to sleep, but she's tossing and turning because they're still aroused with one another. Yeah, okay. So she's like, I know I said that you should leave, but actually maybe we can do stuff before you leave. Like, girl, Make it make sense. Like, do you not have any chill? Like, and so Barry's just like, okay. And so they proceed to do the last series of events, except this time when he is pleasuring her, when he's going at it, he shrinks into his bee form. And then he like goes under the sheets in his bee form, and then he goes in as a bee. When I tell you, when I was reading the scene, I literally like shot up from my bed and I was like, this book is actually a joke. Because what do you mean you shrunk into a bee? What do you mean? Can't that give you like a yeast infection or something? Oh, yeah, you know what? Honestly, I don't know. He finds the perfect spot, and this brings her immense pleasure. And even she's like, this is weird, but I somehow like it, but it's weird, right? He makes her happy, whatever. And then there's a character that I forgot to introduce. No, I didn't really forget. He wasn't really relevant until now. There's another character called Bailiff, who is also like one of the bee human species that lives on Barracks' planet, and he like was one of the pollen jockeys, but Barracks was the chosen one, so he was like the runner-up basically. And he was watching, you know, Barracks, because we get his point of view. He was watching Barracks leave the colony, and he was super jealous, and he was like, he's always gotten everything handed to him. And so what Bailiff does is that like when Barracks leaves, he gets a little suspicioso, and then he's like, actually, shouldn't you have come back like sooner than later? How long does it take to impregnate someone? Which is one of the wildest sentences I have heard in a while. Okay? So then he's like, why is it taking him so long? He's probably failing, and I'm gonna catch him in the act. And then when I do, I'm gonna be the chosen one. I'm gonna be the hero, and everyone's gonna see that Barracks is a failure and I'm the better one because that's me. He secretly leaves the planet the same way Barracks did. And he comes into Earth, zooms around, and finds Janessa and Barracks like together. He also senses, because he has the same antenna, and so he senses that Vanessa is not fertile right now. And so he's like, why is he wasting his time with somebody who's not part of the mission? He's off the mission. He's gone rogue. I'm gonna go back and snitch. And so he does, but we don't really get more of that for now, but just know that's happening in the background while these two are trying to figure out their situation. Also love the rain ambiance that's happening right now. It's keeping me sane versus this book that's not. Anyways, it's the next day. Janessa goes to work, and guess who shows up? Kennedy Kent. She hadn't really broken up with him like over the phone because she's been too busy doing the do with Mr. Barracks over here. So when Kent shows up back at the place, he's like, why aren't you answering my calls? And she's like, bro, you must be on something because you were cheating in my home. And she's like, actually, we should break up. And we're breaking up now. Kent gets like super upset. And he's like, after all that I've done for you? And then he gets violent and he tries to actively corner Vanessa in a corner and hit her. And he says some of the most horrible things to her face. And he calls her like a loser. And he's just like, I was just having pity on you by being your boyfriend. You literally have no one else but me. And I'm like, ew. But luckily, in time, Barracks was there in his compact form the whole entire time. And so he goes back into his normal form and he beats the shit out of Ken, which is the only time I actively agree with this. Yes, we don't put our hands on women, period. So she's just super overwhelmed to this whole entire situation, but she's just grateful that, you know, Kent is out of her life. And I guess with these overwhelmed feelings, I don't know, and the constant state of arousal, they go at it. But this time, they go all the way in her flower shop. I'm not going to divulge the details because honestly, I choose life. I choose health. I choose wealth. I don't choose this. One thing that is interesting to note is that when they're done, I think one thing the author really has is her obsession with honey coming out of Barracks. Because as they like finish whatever, Janessa notices that the flowers, because they're in her flower shop, she notices that the flowers in her flower shop that were dead are now alive because they have been pollinated from the honey that comes out of Barracks. It was not on purpose. It was like accidental. And she's like, oh my gosh, this guy can also pollinate our whole entire planet. Like all my flowers are pollinated. No. I'm telling you, when this happened, I actively cackled because I knew this book is on crack. They have another conversation after they do it again, and she's like, I think we need to talk about this because like it just can't work. I can't go to a planet. But Barracks is fully committed. Barracks really said, you are my woman. I will do whatever it makes to make you happy. Fuck the mission. I want to be with you. And she's like, okay, but like how is that gonna work? So they're constantly trying to figure out like what they're gonna say, what are they gonna do, how are they gonna live. Also, he's a bee human being, like how he's supposed to camouflage into human life. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Like, you know what? Let's just take it one day at a time. We'll figure the rest out later, which, I mean, fair game. But in the meantime, she doesn't know, and he doesn't know, that Bailiff has gone to snitch on the both of them. And the next thing you know, she gets kidnapped by the bee soldiers. And she gets taken to this like room, I guess. I don't even know if it's on their planet. I think it's on their planet. I'm not even sure where they are. But she gets kidnapped, and so does Barracks. And so they put them in separate rooms, and they tell Barracks that he's failed his mission, and this girlie is not even fertile. So like, what is he doing? And so Vanessa's in this other room, and the bee soldiers are not necessarily the friendliest of people. And so Vanessa is in this like little cage, and she's practically losing her mind because she's freaked out. And what they want to do is just pollinate her and get it over with. Barracks is trying to fight everybody, being like, where's Vanessa? Where's Vanessa? Bailiff is feeling himself because like, right, like I got you, like you thought you were gonna pollinate. I'm the main bitch over here. And so Bailiff goes to Barracks like in his cage, and he starts bragging, and he's like, without the soldiers, by the way. And he's like, I was the one who snitched on you. You always had everything. Fuck you. I'm gonna impregnate your girl. And I ew. There is nothing more disgusting than the idea of somebody just claiming you and being like, yeah, your girl, I'm gonna impregnate her, as a weird way to spite somebody else is really disgusting. And so Barracks gets like really upset by this. So they both fight. Barracks finds a way to escape from this place. How he does is not really explained, but I don't think that's really the main I don't think that's really the main point. So he manages to escape and then goes to Janessa's cage. And when I tell you, he's just supposed to grab her and they're supposed to escape, right? But no. So he's like, oh my gosh, like, are you hurt? Janessa's just really happy to see somebody else. Also, one thing I forgot to mention that's going to be very important later is that Barracks did explain to the soldier bees and to the captain that it's not like she's infertile, she's just on the pill. So they can know, which also puts her in danger in the first place, but you know, I digress. But anyways, when he sees Janessa, instead of him to just grab her and then can leave through the ceiling and go and fly away, because he has wings, don't forget, they instead start doing it in the middle of the floor. They start doing it and they're like, actually we should leave, but you know what, I'm really attracted to you right now, so we're gonna do it. And what's different about it this time is that Vanessa notes that as they're, you know, getting busy, because she says he's always been super sweet to her, but this time round he isn't as sweet to her necessarily. He keeps on saying, you're mine, as if he's trying to prove something to someone. But Janessa doesn't know about this whole bailiff him situation. She's just like, I've been kidnapped and you're acting a little bit weird, but okay, Janet. And it's really like, this is the part where I was really freaking disgusted. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're from another planet. This weird sort of like, I'm gonna be intimate with my partner to spite somebody else and prove that you're mine is so fucking weird. Because what is that? And so, but she doesn't know, okay? So they like do it. And then they finally decide to escape after God knows how many minutes. And so as they're flying up, surprise, like the whole captain comes after them and they yank them back down. And so they're stuck on this planet, right? But what comes after, I'm telling you, has to be a series of the funniest events I possibly have heard of. So after they get yeeted down back into the planet, they get taken to the captain's like room, and then he's like, okay, you two are weird. We've never seen this kind of situation before. And then he says that the captain and the rest of the soldier bees and whoever's on this project watched Janessa and Barracks get at it in the little room, and they said that they had never seen something like that before, which is why they didn't come after them. So they were just busy watching this whole entire thing, and they were like, we've never seen two people interact like that before, because they don't have intimacy, they don't have passion, they just pollinate to have other kids. And so he was like, oh, that's very interesting, what do you call that? Has she done something to you? Because we don't understand what would make you like go rogue from your mission. And so he's like, well, he tries to bargain with the captain, and he's like, no, this is passion, and this is what we're missing on our planet, and that's why we don't have a big population, because these people understand intimacy, love, and all that good jazz, and we need that. We as human people need that. Let us just come to a compromise. This is what he's offering. Let us come to a compromise between the bee people and earthlings. Like, we can negotiate with the human people's government. I'm pretty sure we can make it into a mutual beneficial thing where, like, you know, we can help their planet and our people can mate with their people and we can create a great species. And he's so naive and he's so happy about this. And Janessa's like, that's not really a good idea. But at this time, she's just trying to escape. So she's like, oh, Yeah, totally. We can totally have a pact or a treaty or whatever. So they do that. They actively do that. Basically, how this book ends is that we have a time jump for 5 years later. The queen came over to the earth and she came to negotiate, and practically human beings and these bee people can coexist in this world. As a result, the bee people pollinate all the flowers and help restore all the lost like vegetation or whatever. And in return, they get to find their mates on Earth and mate with them, which leaves me wondering, like, what happens to the men on Earth, because they didn't really talk about a female population on their planet. You know what? I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. Also, Captain says that he really didn't agree with what Bailiff said about like him trying to impregnate this other person's woman. So they like put him off the mission and he's been sent to a sabbatical for the next 5 years, which is crazy. In this like 5-year time jump, after the negotiations, Janessa has her little flower shop. She can now officially walk with her bee human with wings and his antenna, and she is now pregnant. Great. And yeah, the bees are working in the shops. The bees are everywhere on Earth now, and you know, they get to find their own mate, whoever is compatible to them. She runs a flower shop. People come to visit the flower shop. It's very famous. Kent is traumatized after he got beat down by a bee human being.
Oh, that bee is living my life!
Let it go, Kenny.
When will this nightmare end?
Bailiff is working at Janessa's flower shop because he, you know, went to a sabbatical and he got better, and now he's found his own mate who makes him feel really happy, and now he's not a sour, jealous piece of crap being, I guess, which I don't know if that really fixes his whole like weird sexually assaulty mentality, but you know, I feel I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. And yeah, they fly up to the sky, and now bee humans and human beings exist, baby. And that's not on that period. The end. What's funny about this is that this was just a palate cleanser. Like, this was meant to be something that was just a joke, and it truly was. Was my palate cleansed? Yes, because I actively wanted to wash this whole experience out from my eyes, my tongue, and my ears. On the plus side, I actually did. Do I understand? I kind of see why this girly, like G.M Fairy, why she's doing this. Like, I kind of see it because it's a specific niche of craziness that can work. And also, when I ordered this book, like, it was sold out on Amazon. So in my personal conclusion about this, right, I personally think G.M Fairy is actually a genius. Let me explain. You see, she doesn't have to go through a publisher because her books, as far as I know, this book was not published by a publishing house. It was printed in Poland and sold on Amazon. So she doesn't have to go through a publisher because a publisher would never accept this on their brand name, okay? And she makes her books. God knows how she's printing them. She posts them on Amazon and she gets money. Meanwhile, all y'all are doing it on Wattpad for free. I don't know. Tell me if you guys liked this review. I just wanted to do something different. I was just a little bit, because I've been in the fantasy Game of Thrones Shadow and Bone moment, and Bridgerton season is coming up, so you know what that means. Periana, we're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna be talking about Miss Penelope. I'm very excited. I don't know, y'all. This was crazy. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys loved this. All of my links are in my description, my music, everything that I do. If you guys want to support me, all in the description box down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Okay, bye.
Oh my